What is up, guys? Welcome to this new video. In this video I'll be going over the newest patch notes. These are the patch notes of the 30th of July of 2025 that introduce the first changes to the LYUBECH rework and also the end of the attack on perimeter season. There's quite a lot to uncover, so let's just get right into it. Alright, so the patch notes start off by saying the event loved by many came to an end. The SSPP military fired all their ammo and the project team worked their fingers to the bone while making updates. You'll learn about a little LYUBECH rework and new signals, balance adjustments, and a lot more. Let's dive into everything that awaits us in this patch note. So first of all, the end of the attack on perimeter event. The loved by many funny event has come to an end. Deleted the attack on perimeter daily tasks and challenges, yet we left the opportunity to exchange your murmur trophies to dotations to open military supply cases for 2 more weeks. The awards for those who have been noticed by the Big Brother will be sent later, so it's pretty cool that you can still open the military supply crates. And the Big Brother thing was like something they announced where like people who like extract a law, play a law, or like also people who team kill a law or something, like they get like I guess rewards or not rewards, I guess, if you kill a lot of team players. I'm not sure. We'll see about that when people get their rewards. Then there's also a new offer at the Exchanger. Our economists did their best to make the offers for 6 and 7 parts of the legendary Albatross Heavy Assault Armored Skeleton and Gauss Rifle available without a heavy grind, but it's still not easy to get. So if you don't know, they introduced the ability to buy the suit for essentially the equivalent of 6 tickets, so like I think 6,000 or 6,500. But a lot of people who already bought parts were like, well, we already have the parts, so that's like, well, you know, we still have to go to 8. So we're like, okay, we're working on a way where you can exchange 6 like separate parts for a legendary armor together with some barter resources or whatever for the armor as well to make it a little bit more fair. And so they finally came with that, and they made it quite hard, but I guess it makes sense. I think personally for me the main thing that sticks out is the monetary aspect, because if you have 7 parts you still need to pay 30 mil, and if you have 6 parts you need to pay 60 mil, which is quite a lot. I mean, I do get it, because otherwise it is the equivalent of 1,000 act tickets, which you don't come by easily. So I don't know, I'm not too sure about this one. I think the monetary aspect is a bit high, but maybe I'm also just poor in the game, so I don't know about that. Let me know what you think about that down below. Also, it's important to note that barter coupons do not apply for these offers. Then, the LYUBECH-3 rework is on the way, and we already got a part of it. The devs finally made it up to everybody's favorite location, LYUBECH-3. Although it is not yet the full rework, it will be released later. However, we hope these changes will meet your approval. And if not, don't forget to leave feedback with which we continue to improve our game. So again, it's nice to see that they're actively listening to feedback. So first of all, we have a rework of the location spawn system. You can see that for all the different factions, the entrance point is now different. And similar to Labyrinth, only certain factions will now face off at LYUBECH. The only difference is that Mercenaries will face Covenant and Rise will face Frontier. So, players now appear in the south of the location, which is divided into right and left zones, with one faction appearing on the left and the other on the right. And the faction changes these zones every 30 minutes, so for example, if Mercenaries appeared on the right and Covenant on the left, they switch places after 30 minutes. I also think it's fun that we now essentially have places where we can face off easily, specifically against like one faction, you know, like for example for Rise, we can go to Mines for Mercenaries, we can go to Labs for Covenant, and we can now go to LYUBECH for facing off against the Duty or Frontier members. They've also added trampolines on the south location to speed up the movements, which I think is a nice change of pace, because I do think that, like, you know, there can be some very cool sort of mechanics or like skill you can implement by placing very strategic trampolines and, you know, sort of movement anomalies, I guess. Then another thing that they changed are the LYUBECH-3 awards and events changes. They've significantly reduced the weight of all the resources. They've increased the resource reward from all events from 10 to 15%. Now 2 bosses can be on the map at the same time. Now the ID from bosses and installation drops, starting 10% damage to the boss. And they've reduced the number of ways required to protect the anomaly installation to 2. They've also reduced dropped cargo delivery time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. They've reduced the time to capture a dropped load from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. They've reworked all NPCs in events and patrols. They reduced the density of many events and patrols to make the location less overpopulated. Also something I really like is it used to be a bit too overpopulated with events, which made it kind of annoying to actually do one of the events because you kept getting third-partied by different events, which was just kind of, it wasn't fun. It wasn't like making it harder, it was just making it more annoying. Then they've also increased the spawn of the Behemoth and Fiend. Now they will be encountered more often. I think this is a good change because, you know, I feel like this is the perfect location where you can have like a higher chance of finding them. Then, change of LYUBECH resource prices for trade coins and crimson casings. So they've changed some of the prices for these resources and they've gotten more expensive because they have been easier to get now. So that makes sense, because now it will actually encourage players to go there, and it also hopefully won't be as much of a chore as it used to be. Then they have actually also changed quite a lot to art hunting, which will have a very big impact on the way we find artifacts. So, to improve art hunting, we have increased the variety of artifacts. Now when looking for them, the loot will be more varied in terms of artifacts themselves, but not in terms of their quality. Valuable artifacts of high quality remain just as rare as they were before. As part of a change in variety, artifact costs were adjusted to keep activity profits the same. They've increased the chances of artifacts of different quality to better match the intended progression in locations for Black Detour, Reflection, Labyrinth, Stillwaters, and LYUBECH-3. In addition, due to the increased chance of rarer quality artifacts at science locations, there's now a limit on the maximum quality of artifacts that can appear at a number of locations. So, in Serpentine, the maximum quality is special, which is blue, and the same goes for Barrier, Temple, Swamp, and Institute, so all the home locations, the maximum quality is now a blue artifact. Then in Mines and Inflow, the maximum quality is rare, so a pink artifact. And then in Forge 11, the maximum quality is exclusive, so a red artifact. They've also changed a bunch of the values of the artifacts. I'm not going to go over all of them. You can take a look at the link down below if you want to see them for yourself. Most of them have gotten less expensive, but there are some that have gotten more expensive. So yeah, I guess that's just kind of a shakeup of the way that they spawn. I'm not too sure how I feel about it yet. I think, I guess it's fine, because from what I've heard from people, you can still make a lot of money because of the different way they're gonna spawn, which is something we'll get to right now. So artifact spawn might be one of the most interesting changes in all of this. So artifact spawns are now concentrated in the first 30 minutes of eruption. During this period of time, they spawn much more actively, and a significant portion of the artifacts that previously appeared over the course of 3 hours after the eruption will now spawn within the shorter time frame. Artifact spawns fully stop after 90 minutes. I don't know how I feel about this. I think it's like now it's way more concentrated, so you really gotta like try and go hard these first 30 minutes, and then like maybe the 60 minutes after, but not a lot, as you can see on the graph. I think that's good for farming. However, I did like finding the odd artifact randomly like 2.5 hours after eruption. It was just like a nice little treat, you know. I've never found anything crazy, but it's just a nice little, you know, extra. You're like, oh, that's cool. I found this like random artifact 2.5 hours after eruption. That's cool, you know. It feels like rare. It feels like fun, a little thing. So I'm not too sure how I feel about this. I liked it, but I do get that they want to kind of really make it into an event that's very time bound, because now it was very like you could still find artifacts, right? And I've also seen people say that now it's actually like cooked, like you can find so many artifacts. Like I've seen people make like 800k like easily in one run. So we'll have to see how that plays out in practice, also with the nerfed prices, you know, how it kind of balances out. Then also very interesting, South Signals update and new SRD. Changes to signal farming in the south. They've reworked signal spawns in the south. Previously, this type of farming wasn't stable due to low signal density. Players often had to wait long periods for new signals to appear. This is very true. I remember grinding the Buriat. That was sometimes I had to wait so long. But yeah, anyway, now their spawn rate has been roughly doubled, and they've reduced signal rewards to maintain the balance. So they've decreased the amount of barter and sellable resources from signals by about 30% on average, which honestly, if you think about it, the rate has been roughly doubled. It balances out. It might actually be even better in practice. Then, so this affects the locations in the south like Scrapyard, the Pit, the Forest, the Dead City, the Graveyard, the Path of Fools, and Poliskoye. They've also changed the price of the Buriat, so now the Buriat requires 75 instead of 50 alpha group trackers and 125 instead of 75 beta group trackers. It's kind of back to how it used to be. I think with the ability to find more signals quicker, this is not going to be that much of a difference time-wise in practice. They've also reduced the amount of rebels that it's cost, but I mean, I feel like also 100k, if you're at the stage where you have 150 gamma group trackers, 100k is not that much. So like I guess the 20k less is nice, but I don't think that's gonna, you know, make or break your bank. They also note that players who actively collect the trackers will receive appropriate compensation at a later time. Then this is also very cool. They've introduced a new SRD, so a short range detector, you know, for artifact hunting. So they've added the new Beluga short range detector for those who want to try themselves in artifact hunting. It will help newcomers to learn the basics. This is a blue detector, so that's pretty cool. The Beluga can be purchased for trackers from the merchant at the bar or Nord faction bases. It will cost 1 candle SRD, 25 alpha group trackers, and 25 beta group trackers. This is something I would have loved when I was back in the south. So I think I'll definitely be I'll be crafting this one with my alt, because artifact hunting is just so much fun and it can be actually pretty profitable as well. So honestly, pretty cool. Then this one is also a cool quality of life feature, the device's quick access. They've added the ability to quickly equip devices from the inventory. Hold X to open a radial menu and select the leglet or short and wide range detectors such as the Buriat, etc. The last selected device is remembered and you can simply press X to re-equip it. If there's no last selected device, the system prioritizes devices in this order: SRD, WRD, and leglet. Now when starting a signal search, the detector is equipped directly in the hand rather than being placed in the secondary slot. So this is huge. So like when you do this, it's not going to go in your secondary slot and take away your secondary weapon. No, it's just going to like equip and your second weapon will still be there, which is honestly pretty nice for switching and will hopefully make all these things a bit more smooth, and also brings it closer to the original Stalker series. So that's pretty cool. Then mystery lights. On some northern locations, people began to notice never before seen lights. They are most often encountered in secluded, quiet places, but there have been reports of encounters near some anomalies. Rare eyewitnesses say that these entities affected them in some way, and that the sensations from these effects were similar to those that they experienced in the Klondike. What are those? You'll find out in the game, so that's going to be pretty cool to see. Then there's a bunch of balance changes as well. They've made some infection changes, so they've removed the movement speed penalty from suppressions down to minus 10%, and they added a recoil penalty for suppression up to plus 10%. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There's some weapon and attachment balance changes. Again, not going over these. It's just a bunch of numbers, so if you want to see those, head down below and you can read through them yourself at your own pace. But all in all, yeah, I would say mostly buffs to most guns, so that's pretty cool, like with especially pertaining to hipfire spread and stuff. So I guess that's pretty nice. And then also the compensation for the inability to equip a laser sight now grants minus 25% hipfire spread, matching the effect of a master rank laser sight. And they've removed the ability to equip laser sights on the OTS 14M Search and the SR3M. All laser sights installed on the affected weapons will be automatically moved to the inventory. Then some artifact balance changes. They have changed the Dark Viburnum, so now it has a bunch of changed properties, as you can see. I'm not too sure how I feel about this. I think it's cool, but it really changes around everything. Like it makes it kind of like a completely different arty, which is, I get that sometimes they have to do that, but it is kind of annoying, especially if you bought them like for a specific reason to get, well, in this case I guess stamina and stability, but now you get movement speed and health regen, which is like a completely different use case. I don't know, I personally don't have any of these that I use, so for me it's like no problem, but I don't know, it's always kind of, you know, it can be annoying, I guess. Then Bismuth just has some like values change, so that's not too crazy. And then Tiny Key also has gotten their stamina regen changed to bullet resistance, which is again way different use case. I don't know how I feel about this, but it might make the arty actually more useful, to be fair. And then the Inside Out Rose has gotten the stamina regen changed to reaction to burns, which is kind of a nerf, to be honest. So that's very annoying. But yeah, they have also balanced some items like the Strength Stimulator and the Alcohol, which just got their values changed slightly, but just overall received buffs. Then another big one, consumable adjustments. The duration of consumables is no longer dependent on their level and is now the same for all items within a category. The duration of all consumables with the following purpose is now 30 minutes. The weak boost, the strong boost, the strength improvement, stamina improvement, bleeding protection, and burns protection. The only exception for weak boost is Breakfast of Champions, which is 35 minutes. Honestly huge, because it makes it easier to like manage all of it. The only thing I would wish is there was like a way, like is it Minecraft, where you can drink milk or something, kind of reset the effects that don't go away when you die. Sometimes you might want to like change up what you're using, but if it all takes 30 minutes, that's very long. There's a huge list of what all changed. You can again look at it if you want. Because of this, they've also adjusted the merchant prices. This is honestly fair, because if they're gonna last longer, it makes sense that you're gonna be more expensive. It's whatever, it's fine. There are some craft changes. They've replaced the hemostat craft in the hideout for asterisks in, which is honestly pretty nice. And then they have changed some of the quantities and the bonuses when crafting these items below. Again, if you want to read through this, pause the video, look at the numbers. I'm not going to read all of them out loud. It's going to take a while. Then they have fixed incorrectly displayed ranks of many consumables without changing their actual stats. Consumables now have 10 priority levels, and ranks are now strictly tied to these levels regardless of the consumable type, which is hopefully that going to clear up some confusion which one takes priority over which one, which is amazing. Then they have the new scientist suits remodels. Yeah, they look pretty cool. Here we have the MIS 99 Amber. I really like that one. I also like the Malachite. Yeah, I mean, honestly, they look pretty cool. I'm drawing some of them up on screen right now. Yeah, it's cool. I'm still waiting for all the other like new combat armors they added and stuff, that like the Prometheus, to have a model, but I guess we'll have to wait a little bit longer for that. Then some other miscellaneous changes are that they've automatically removed from the auction and returned by courier all consumables that received an increased duration. The funds for deposits and bits have also been refunded. Then they've updated the medicine, food and drinks parts in the PDA guide with missing items. They've updated the L86A1 model, interaction sites and animations. And they've removed the ability to turn off shadows via the config file, something which people are mad about, but that's a whole other topic, so I'm not going to get into that right now. And then prohibited the use of fragmentation grenades and underbarrel rounds crafted in the hideout during subdivision battles, something which I've also heard a lot of people being very approving of, actually. And then weapon stats now display plate penetration and armor damage multiplier if different from 1. Alright, that was it. It was pretty big. Let me know what you think of all the changes down below. Let me know what you think of the upcoming LYUBECH rework and what they already have kind of changed for it. What do you think of those changes? Let me know down below what you think about the artifact changes and the artifact spawn changes. Are you a fan or are you not? If you want to watch some more Stalcraft content, you can click here on the left for some gameplay content, or you can click here on the right for some case openings. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the zone, stalkers.